humans pushing the absolute limits, especially in places like Everest. We're digging into American ultra runner Tyler Andrews and his huge goal, setting a fastest known time, an FKT, on Mount Everest. And the kicker, without supplemental oxygen.
We'll pull out the key info, what he's trying to do, why it's such a big deal, his strategy.
The mission is basically to understand the what, the why, and the how of this Everest speed attempt.
Let's do it. So Tyler Andrews, 34, American ultra runner. The goal is Everest FKT South Col route, no supplemental O2, aiming for May 2025.
And this isn't his first rodeo at high altitude, is it? He's got form.
Oh, definitely not. He already holds speed records on some serious mountains. Honestly, that's over 26,000 feet.
Oh.
Then Aconcagua, Cotopaxi, Kilimanjaro too. So, he's built up quite the resume in high altitude FKTs.
So he knows the game. And the specific Everest record he's gunning for.
He's targeting a pretty specific one. Kaji Sherpa's 1998 record. That was 20 hours and 24 minutes base camp to summit, crucially, without supplemental oxygen.
20 hours, 24 minutes, no O2. That sounds incredibly fast, but also just brutal. How does that compare to other Everest speed records? Just for context.
Well, it puts it into perspective, doesn't it? Lakajeli Sherpa did it in under 11 hours back in 2003.
Half the time.
But with supplemental oxygen, which is, a completely different physiological challenge.
Totally different category.
Exactly. And then you've got someone like Kilian Jornet, who did it in 26 hours in 2017. Also no oxygen, but alpine style, no fixed ropes either.
Okay, so Andrews is in that no O2 category,
Like
Jornet, but using the established route with fixed ropes, aiming for Kaji Sherpa's much faster time.
Precisely. He's leveraging the fixed infrastructure, but removing the oxygen support. It's a specific, very demanding niche he's targeting.
Now, Everest, it gets a lot of press for being crowded, commercialized. Why pick Everest for a speed attempt, given that?
That's a fair question. Andrew seems to see it differently. Despite the commercial side, he views Everest as the ultimate progression, his words, in mountain running records.
The pinnacle, literally.
Right. After ticking off those other major peaks, it's the logical ultimate challenge in this specific discipline he's pursuing.
It's not just about the personal challenge, is it? He mentioned wider goals.
He hopes it inspires people generally, to tackle their own big goals, whatever field they're in. And he also wants to sort of nudge other top mountain athletes, encourage them to look at FKTs in the Himalayas, suggesting it's maybe a bit underdeveloped competitively compared to, say, trail running in the Alps or US.
Interesting angle. Okay, let's talk logistics. The route South Col, it's about 9.3 miles, but with, over 11,000 feet of gain?
11,434 feet of vertical gain. That's steep.
And the biggest non-altitude challenge, sounds like? Other people? The crowds.
Definitely a major factor. Congestion is a real risk, especially on summit days. His strategy is quite key here. He plans to start his attempt outside the peak summit windows that the big commercial teams use.
Trying to thread the needle, basically.
Pretty much. He'll have to make calls on the fly based on how busy the route looks when he's there. Avoiding bottlenecks is critical for speed.
So it's physical, but also tactical navigation. Is he doing this solo or with support?
He's got support. Crucial support, actually. Dawa Stephen Sherpa, who he worked with on his Manaslu FKT, is handling logistics, permits all that vital background stuff.
Okay.
And then his friend Chris Fisher is planning to pace him through the Khumbu icefall.
Ah, the icefall. That's notoriously sketchy, isn't it? Having a pacer there makes sense.
It's one of the most objectively dangerous parts of the route. Having support there, someone to move with, is a smart move.
So past the icefall, what's the plan for the higher camps? Is he stopping, sleeping?
No, the plan is continuous movement above base camp. No sleeping at camps 1, 2, 3, or 4.
Straight through. How does that work with gear and supplies?
He'll pre-position caches, stashing food, water, essential gear at strategic points along the route for his actual push.
Ah, okay. So he picks them up as he goes, minimizes carry weight. Smart.
Exactly. Essential for moving fast at that kind of altitude. Weight is everything.
Highlighted one section as being particularly make or break for time. Near the top.
The final push. From Camp 4, the South Col, up to the summit, it's only the last, 800 meters or so of vertical gain.
Relatively small distance, elevation-wise.
Right, but it's incredibly slow going up there. He apparently estimated that bit alone could take anywhere from 4 to 12 hours.
4 to 12. That's a massive variable.
It really highlights how much conditions matter at 8,000 meters plus. Wind, deep snow, just the sheer lack of oxygen. It makes progress hugely unpredictable. That section will be crucial.
Unbelievable range. Okay, preparation. To even think about this, The training must be intense. How does he get ready for that kind of altitude?
Well, a big part of it is using a hypoxic generator at home. It simulates high altitude by reducing the oxygen content in the air he breathes while training or even sleeping. So his body starts adapting without him having to constantly be, living up high.
Get some adaptation benefits at sea level or lower elevations, and gear. Clothing seems like it would be incredibly critical.
Whoa, absolutely critical. He's got very specific kits planned, a warm weather setup and a cold weather setup. The key is layering, being able to adjust quickly as conditions change, which they do rapidly up there.
Makes sense.
He actually worked with his sponsor, La Sportiva, to develop a modular clothing system specifically for this.
Custom gear. And his pack.
Minimalist, a small custom backpack made by a company called FSP Outdoors, just big enough for the absolute essentials he needs to carry between those stashed caches.
Every gram counts, I guess. Now, the risks. Everest is, Everest. People die up there every year. How does someone like Anders approach that, especially when pushing for speed?
He definitely acknowledges the risks. It's inherent in high-altitude mountaineering, especially 8,000-meter peaks.
Right.
But his perspective, and likely that of others attempting these kinds of records, is that they understand those risks deeply. They've weighed them, assessed them, and accepted them as part of the challenge they're undertaking. It's a calculated risk, albeit a very high one.
The calculation most of us wouldn't make, but essential for operating at that level. Let's touch on his background again. It really informs his ability to even consider this.
For sure. His background is pure endurance. He qualified for the U.S. Olympic marathon trials twice, 2016 and 2020.
There's serious running pedigree.
World-class marathon speed, and he's also a world champion ultra runner, so he has both the speed and the endurance base. Plus, he spends a lot of time training specifically at altitude, places like Flagstaff, Arizona, and Quito, Ecuador.
Acclimatization is key.
Constantly exposing himself to thinner air. And that FKT on Manaslu last year, 2024, that seems to have been the real confidence booster. Made the Everest goal feel, tangible, possible.
Okay, so wrapping the core details together. Tyler Andrews, elite ultra runner, deep altitude experience, aiming for the Everest FKT South Call Route, No-02 target. Kaji Sherpa's 27 to 24 meters for 90. Strategy involves careful timing to avoid crowds, strong Sherpa and pacing support, no high-altitude camps, pre-stash gear, specialized clothing, altitude simulation training.